Good morning YouTube, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be test riding the 2019 Road Glide Special here at Alamo City Harley-Davidson in the gorgeous San Antonio, Texas. The Road Glide Special starts off at $27,500 in vivid black like you see here, about $27,900, about $28,000 if you want any of the colors. This bike weighs in at 855 pounds in running order and has a 25.9 inch seat height. Has your standard 6-gallon touring tank, 130 tire in the front, 180 tire in the rear, your standard quick detached saddlebags. You also have a nice little convenient pocket up on the front, both the right and the left side. Now there's two main differences between the 2019 and the 2018. Number one being the Milwaukee 8 114. These are coming in the touring specials, putting out 122 foot-pounds of torque. And then of course the all-new Boombox GTS infotainment system starts up 50% faster than the old one, much better display. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that in just a second, but just kind of give you a quick walk around of the bike. Of course, has the iconic double headlight up front. Just an overall really good looking bike. So let's go ahead and hop on and take it for a spin. Alright, so I'm going to take you through a quick spin of the infotainment, but I'm going to come get in the shade because it's 104 degrees right now, so don't want to cook. Alright, so as you can hear, music starts up automatically. You can control the volume both with the thumbstick here as well as on the screen. We're going to go ahead and mute that for now because we don't really need that. So I'm going to get up kind of close here so you guys can see all new display, completely flat interface. All these buttons on the side are actually level with the glass. You've got Gorilla Glass. Works very well, both dry and wet. Works with gloves. Also, they've completely redone the user interface. It's so much better than the old one. So if you click your home screen, you either get to what you were last at or the home screen. Got your three basic buttons: music, navigation, phone. It is Apple CarPlay, so it coordinates with Apple a little bit better than Android. Of course, I don't have it hooked up right now because I'm just test riding this bike. If you go into settings, it's got quite a couple cool display settings, so you can come into colors, change it orange, blue, green, red, or purple. You can also turn on high contrast colors, which is going to make the screen completely white and basically reverse the colors of everything. Going into the navigation, so this new GPS does have drag capabilities. It also has pinch and zoom capabilities. So as you can see, it operates kind of like a smartphone GPS now, to where you can kind of move it around and actually see what you're doing. So huge improvement over that. It also is one button click to get into your info. It's got your digital speedometer as well as your direction, altitude, and temperature. You also have your regular service stuff, so it shows EITMS is disabled. That's good to know. Let's see what else we got here. Your trip summary, so it's going to have average speed, average miles per gallon, fuel used, and how many times you stopped. Other than that, I mean, you got your volume controls. It does have voice control if you do have the optional microphone. It also did do some updates to the hand controls. You can operate it through this right thumbstick like you always were able to, but it also has, they made a new back button, so that'll take you back to the home screen. You also have an audio button here to where you can activate the voice control, engine swap, range, odometer, trip A, trip B, standard stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this bike on the road. So before we jump on the road here, I do want to ask you that if you do enjoy these kind of videos, test rides, I do quite a bit of them, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I also do bike builds, group rides, event announcements, you name it. I got quite the variety going on this channel. Speaking of the channel, if this is the first video you ever watched on this channel, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Justin, and I run this channel here called Bike and Bird. I have ridden and owned everything from street bikes, 1000cc sport bikes, dirt bikes. I currently own a 2017 Harley Dyna Street Bob. Of course, it's nowhere near stock, but I've got quite a bit of experience on most bikes. Name a bike and there's a good chance I've ridden it or have ridden something along the lines of it. And I also do just want to let people know, completely transparent here on this channel, that even though this test ride is being done in partnership with Alamo City Harley-Davidson, it is in my contract that I'm able to give my honest review, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. Now, I will give you a small warning here, not that I'm going to be biased, but I absolutely love road glides. They are my favorite touring bike by far. They are definitely, it's definitely my next bike that I will get once the Dyna is paid off. So one of the reasons that I am such a fan of the Road Glide is just because of this fixed fairing. I know on camera it looks like a giant spaceship, and it looks exactly like that in real life, and I think that's why I like it so much. You literally feel like you're in control of the spaceship. It's big, but it's nimble. I mean, it's more nimble than the Street Glide. It's more nimble than the Road King Special, in my opinion. You know, this bike is what, 860 pounds? I mean, it flicks around just as good as my Dyna does. And it's also just incredibly comfortable to ride. So coming up to a stop sign here, we're gonna go ahead and put the dual disc front brakes to the test, as well as the rear brakes. Oh my god, this thing stops so good. This bike also does have ABS standard. Of course, we didn't activate it there, didn't give it nearly enough to activate it, but it's a great technology. If you've never owned a bike with one, definitely takes some getting used to, but it's definitely a technology that might save your ass one day. I know it has mine. So I want to take a second to point out the seat on the Road Glide Special. It's a standard Harley touring seat. Harley is not known for making the best seats, but I will say that on the touring bikes, they did a pretty good job. It's nice and wide, it's nice and cushiony. I've ridden the bikes with the Cowboy seat, and I will say that that definitely is an upgrade. But the seat is not so terrible that it's like one of the #1 things to do. I remember when I bought my Dyna, the seat was so ungodly terrible, that was literally the first thing I did. That's not the case on these touring bikes. I also want to take a second and focus on size. Now, for comparison, looking here at me, you can kind of see my legs. I am 6'2", 225 pounds. I have a 32-inch inseam. Some people say it's a long leg, but for a 6'2" guy, relatively short. But I am extremely comfortable on this bike. This bike fits me very well. My only complaint is the same complaint I have on every single bike, and that's the handlebars. I just personally enjoy a straighter, taller bar, so ideally I would like something around here. But like I said, bars are completely personal preference. That's why they make bars in every shape, color, size, bin, pullback, you name it. One advantage of the Road Glide Special is that it is a lot easier to change bars as opposed to a Street Glide. That's something you're kind of on the fence about. That might be something to take into consideration. With this tank having a 6-gallon tank, you're looking at around 43 miles per gallon. That puts your range at just over 250 miles per tank. Now, even with this tank being 6 gallons, if you look down, my legs are not super spread out. They're very comfortable, they're very relaxed. You've got your floating footboards up front, heel-toe shifter on the left, standard brake pedal on the right. So this infotainment system, like I mentioned earlier, is just such a huge improvement over the old one. The whole buttonless look looks so much better. The screen, you've got 4 times the contrast of the old screen. I believe it's an 800 by 400 pixel screen. So definitely an improvement, definitely an upgrade from the previous one. And of course, with them going with the Gorilla Glass, you're going to be getting rid of a lot of the durability issues that you've been hearing about on the older ones as well. So I want to talk about low speed wind right now, because we're about to hop on the highway for a second. Low speed wind is actually amazing on this bike, and when I say amazing, I mean there's not much of it. I feel a little bit of wind coming down from here. The wind coming off the windshield is just at the top of my forehead. I think just a little bit taller windscreen would get it completely up and over my body, but almost nothing hitting me in the chest. Definitely different from the Street Glide. But let's go ahead and get it onto the highway here and test it at some actual highway speeds. So no problem getting up to highway speeds with that 114. You really don't feel the difference between the 107 and the 114 just putting around town like we have been. You really feel the oomph and the power of the 114 once you get above about 45-55 miles an hour. So we're on the highway now. I am having to talk a little bit louder just because of the wind noise. There is some wind noise, but it's actually very minimal. A lot of the wind is being pushed up and kind of grazed off the top of my head as opposed to just going straight into it. As far as wind on my legs and my body is feeling almost nothing. My legs are feeling a little bit more than they were on the Street Glide, but it's still very minimal. The little deflectors are not pushing the air out away from the bike as much as they were on the Street Glide. but still overall extremely comfortable. Alright, so on to one of our more popular segments is the top 3 mods that I would do to this bike. Now this is not 3 things this bike needs or 3 things that's wrong with this bike. This is simply just if I were to buy this bike today, or the first 3 things that I would change on it. First on the list, as mentioned earlier, would have to be the taller bars. Like I said, I would want something around here just to kind of get my ergonomics a little bit more upright. Second after that would probably be some throatier exhaust. Now, this is definitely not the worst of the stock Harley exhaust, but you know, with companies having to abide by so many EPA regulations and all that nonsense, there's not much they can do as far as exhaust. I'd have to go ahead and pay the stock bike tax and go ahead and get at least some slip-ons just to kind of get it a little bit louder. To me, that's kind of a safety issue. And then last but not least, I'd want to go ahead and put a rear passenger backrest on this bike. They don't come standard on these bikes, but they are extremely easy to purchase and install. It has a very comfortable passenger seat just by feeling it. It also comes standard with the passenger footboards. So you can take a passenger without buying that, but my old lady has a old lady back and is not able to ride bikes on a backrest. So for me personally, that'd be one of the first things I could do just so she can come on rides with me. And then moving on to the last segment of the review, question I always get is this a good beginner's bike and who is this bike for? Now, I don't like answering the beginner bike question because I feel like there's too many variables that go into that. I like to answer that question by who is this bike for? Now, I will say that this bike probably isn't for beginners. The reason for that is, I say probably, probably not good for beginners. The reason I say that is, one, because of the price tag. You're looking at $27,500. That's more than most cars. Second is just the size. Even though it is flickable for 860 pounds, it is still 860 pounds. It's not very forgiving if you make mistakes and things like that. So for someone who's going to be making a lot of mistakes, probably not the most ideal choice. But outside of that, this bike would probably be open to a lot of people. Like I said, that price tag is probably going to deter a lot of people away from this bike, but I feel like that $27,500 price tag is worth it. I feel like it is justified on this bike. How can I say this is a touring bike straight out of the box. There's nothing that you have to do to go out and do a 500,000 mile trip. You could take this bike straight from the dealership and hit the highway and go. The saddlebags are big enough to strap in a ton of stuff. You could definitely go for a week with just the saddlebags. The seat is comfortable enough to crush those miles. And I think, that phrase has come up quite a bit in this review, is crush those miles. I think that would be what I would expect whoever buys this bike, that would be their main goal, is to crush miles, because that's what these bikes are really made for, and that's what these bikes do well. But I don't want you to think that that deters or takes away from how well these bikes do in the city. That's pretty much what we've been doing this entire time, is just city riding, and this bike does so well. I want this bike so bad, guys. Like I said at the beginning of the video, probably a little bit biased on this review, but I'm being honest, this is still my personal opinion. Literally the only thing keeping me from purchasing one of these bikes right now is the fact that I have a very heavily modified 2017 Dyna that does a lot of stuff very well that this bike could not do. So that's really the number one reason why I wouldn't trade in on this bike right now. Alright guys, back to the dealership. Alright guys, so if you want to come down and check this bike out, come down to Alamo City and ask for Hank. I love that. That 114 is nice.
We'll let Michael here try it too.
Go for it. Alright guys, if you have any questions about that bike, please go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below and I'll answer them as soon as I possibly can. And if you're in the San Antonio area, swing by here, Alamo City Harley-Davidson, and tell them Bike and Bird sent you. Even if you don't buy anything, they have a special little gift for you. Alright guys, well, that's going to do it for today's video. If you like this video, just go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and punch that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.